How Buddhism's Māyā, illusion of reality, might reveal the universe's hidden code, by David Russo. What if the world you've trusted your entire life is only the surface of something far deeper? Every mountain, every star, every passing second, and even your own sense of self may be part of an extraordinary illusion. Not because the universe is fake, but because reality is far more complex than your senses can reveal. For over 2,500 years, Buddhism has called this illusion Māyā. Today, some of the most intriguing ideas in physics are raising questions that sound surprisingly familiar. If both ancient wisdom and modern science are pointing beyond the visible world, could they be uncovering clues to the same hidden reality? Introduction. What if everything you experience, matter, time, even consciousness, is not what it appears to be? Across ancient Buddhist philosophy, the concept of Māyā describes reality as an illusion, a deeply convincing appearance that hides a more fundamental truth. Rather than claiming that the world is unreal, Buddhism suggests that our perception of it is incomplete. We mistake temporary forms for permanent ones, separation for independence, and appearances for ultimate truth. The world functions exactly as we experience it, yet beneath that experience may lie a deeper level of reality that our ordinary senses cannot fully grasp. Today, modern physics is beginning to ask questions that seem remarkably similar. Is the universe fundamentally made of matter, or is it built from information? Are space and time the basic ingredients of existence, or do they emerge from something even more fundamental? While science and Buddhism approach these mysteries from very different perspectives, both invite us to look beyond the obvious. In this audiobook, we'll explore where these two paths intersect, connecting Buddhist philosophy with ideas from quantum theory, cosmology, and information science to investigate one fascinating question. Is there a hidden code beneath reality itself? Chapter 1. The meaning of Māyā, reality as illusion. Buddhism teaches that Māyā is not the claim that the universe is imaginary or non-existent. Instead, it suggests that our ordinary perception mistakes appearances for ultimate reality. We see objects as permanent, independent, and separate, even though they are constantly changing and interconnected. Like a dream that feels completely real while we are asleep, everyday experience can convince us that what we perceive is the whole truth. Imagine looking at the ocean. From a distance, you notice individual waves rising and falling, each appearing separate from the others. Yet, every wave is simply the ocean expressing itself in a different form. Buddhism proposes that people often focus on the waves while forgetting the ocean beneath them. The illusion lies not in the waves existing, but in believing they exist independently. Modern neuroscience supports the idea that our experience of reality is filtered rather than direct. The brain constantly interprets sensory information, filling gaps and constructing a coherent picture of the world. If our minds are already creating a simplified model of reality, then Māyā may describe not fantasy, but the limitations of human perception itself. Chapter 2. The Observer Problem in Consciousness. One of the most fascinating questions in both philosophy and science is the role of the observer. Buddhism has long emphasized that perception shapes experience. Our beliefs, expectations, memories, and attention influence how we interpret every moment, making consciousness an active participant rather than a passive witness. Quantum physics introduces a surprisingly similar mystery. Certain quantum experiments reveal that microscopic systems behave differently depending on how they are measured. While this does not prove that human consciousness creates reality, it demonstrates that observation and measurement play an essential role in determining physical outcomes. Reality at its smallest scales refuses to behave like the predictable world of everyday life. This similarity has inspired countless philosophical discussions. Perhaps consciousness does not manufacture the universe, but it may influence how reality becomes meaningful within experience. Buddhism encourages us to examine the observer itself, asking whether understanding the mind is just as important as understanding the world it perceives. Chapter 3: The Quantum World and the Breakdown of Solidity. The solid objects surrounding us seem permanent and substantial. A table feels firm beneath your hands. Mountains appear immovable, and buildings stand for generations. Yet modern physics reveals that these appearances hide an astonishing microscopic reality. Atoms are mostly empty space, while subatomic particles behave more like probability distributions than tiny billiard balls. Quantum mechanics challenges everyday intuition. Electrons do not orbit nuclei like miniature planets, and particles can display wave-like behavior under certain conditions. Instead of fixed certainty, the quantum world is filled with possibilities, probabilities, and interactions that only become definite through physical processes involving measurement. Buddhism similarly reminds us that permanence is an illusion created by continuous change. Everything arises, transforms, and eventually disappears. Although science and Buddhism approach the question from entirely different perspectives, both encourage us to recognize that the apparent solidity of the world conceals a far deeper and more dynamic reality. Chapter 4: Information as the Foundation of Reality. Some physicists have proposed an extraordinary possibility. Perhaps information is more fundamental than matter itself. Instead of viewing particles as the basic building blocks of existence, they suggest that information may be the deepest layer from which physical reality emerges. In this framework, matter becomes an expression of encoded relationships. This idea resembles the way computer software operates. Images, sounds, and virtual worlds appear vivid on a screen, yet beneath every visual experience lies digital information arranged according to precise rules. Although the universe is certainly not proven to be a computer simulation, the analogy helps illustrate how complexity can arise from surprisingly simple underlying patterns. If reality is fundamentally informational, then the laws of physics may resemble the grammar of a universal language. Buddhism's concept of Māyā invites us to look beyond appearances, while information theory encourages us to ask what invisible structures make those appearances possible in the first place. Chapter 5: The Buddhist Concept of Dependent Origination. Dependent origination is one of Buddhism's most profound teachings. It explains that nothing exists independently or in complete isolation. Every object, event, and experience arises because of countless interacting causes and conditions. Remove enough of those conditions, and the phenomenon changes or disappears entirely. A tree depends upon sunlight, water, soil, air, insects, microorganisms, and time. Even those supporting elements depend on countless other factors stretching throughout the planet and the universe. Nothing exists entirely by itself. Every part of reality participates in an immense network of relationships. Modern systems science reaches remarkably similar conclusions. Ecosystems, economies, brains, and galaxies all display complex behavior emerging from interconnected parts. Rather than isolated objects, reality increasingly appears as an intricate web of relationships, echoing the Buddhist insight that everything depends upon everything else. Chapter 6: The Simulation Hypothesis and Māyā. The simulation hypothesis proposes that our universe could, in principle, be an artificial environment generated by an advanced intelligence or computational system. While highly speculative and currently unsupported by direct evidence, the hypothesis has become a fascinating thought experiment because it challenges our assumptions about the nature of reality. Buddhism arrives at a surprisingly similar question through an entirely different path. Māyā teaches that the world we experience is conditionally real. It functions consistently, yet it is not ultimate reality. The illusion does not necessarily require a programmer or external creator. Instead, it arises through causes, conditions, and the limitations of perception. Although these ideas should not be treated as equivalent, comparing them encourages deeper reflection. Whether reality is generated by computation, consciousness, or physical laws alone remains unknown. What matters is the shared invitation to question appearances and remain open to deeper explanations of existence. Chapter 7: Consciousness as the Fabric of Experience. Most modern scientific theories describe consciousness as emerging from the activity of the brain. However, some philosophical traditions argue the opposite. Idealist philosophy and certain Buddhist interpretations suggest that consciousness may be primary, with the physical world arising within conscious experience rather than producing it. Every experience you have, including colors, sounds, emotions, and thoughts, appears within awareness. Regardless of what ultimately causes consciousness, it serves as the stage upon which every aspect of your personal universe unfolds. Without awareness, there is no experience of space, time, or matter. This perspective does not reject neuroscience, but expands the philosophical conversation. If consciousness plays a more fundamental role than traditionally assumed, understanding reality may require studying both the external universe and the inner landscape of awareness with equal seriousness. Chapter 8: The Illusion of Time. Time seems to move steadily from past to future, carrying every event along an invisible river. Yet Buddhism teaches that attachment to past and the future often distracts us from the only moment directly experienced, the present. Memories and expectations shape our lives, but they exist as mental constructions unfolding within awareness. Physics has also complicated our understanding of time. Einstein demonstrated that time flows differently depending on motion and gravity, while some approaches to quantum gravity explore the possibility that time itself emerges from more fundamental structures. These ideas suggest that our familiar experience of time may not reflect the deepest level of reality. If time is emergent rather than fundamental, then our everyday perception may once again represent a useful approximation instead of absolute truth. Māyā reminds us that even the flow of time could be part of the appearance through which deeper reality expresses itself. Hi, this is David Russo. I've been thinking about time a lot lately. One story that has always stayed with me is how the Buddha made the courageous decision to leave behind a life of wealth, comfort, and privilege in search of something far more valuable: wisdom and freedom from suffering. That single decision changed not only the course of his own life, but also the lives of millions of people for more than 2,000 years. It has made me reflect on the choices we all make. Major decisions can completely redirect the course of our lives, almost as if they place us on a different path. But I've also come to believe that the smaller decisions matter just as much. Every conversation, every habit, every act of kindness, or every opportunity we ignore quietly shapes the direction our future unfolds. Whether reality is governed by physical laws, information, or something deeper that we have yet to understand, I like to think of our choices that they become part of that unfolding pattern. If there truly is a hidden code beneath reality, perhaps every thoughtful decision writes another line of it. That's why I believe even the smallest choices deserve our attention, because we never know how profoundly they may shape the life we are creating. Chapter 9, Non-Duality and the Collapse of Separation. One of Buddhism's most transformative teachings is non-duality. It suggests that the apparent boundary between self and world is less absolute than it seems. The sense of being a completely separate individual may arise from habitual patterns of thought rather than ultimate reality. Consider breathing for a moment. Every breath exchanges molecules with the atmosphere, connecting your body to forests, oceans, and every other living being. The distinction between inside and outside becomes far less rigid than everyday language suggests. Life itself depends upon constant exchange and relationship. Modern science similarly reveals profound interconnectedness across nature. From ecological systems to quantum fields, boundaries often appear less fundamental than interactions. Non-duality encourages us to see ourselves not as isolated observers of the universe, but as participants within an inseparable whole. Chapter 10, The Hidden Code, Reality as Pattern. Throughout this journey, one theme has appeared repeatedly. Beneath the changing surface of reality may lie deeper patterns governing everything we experience. Whether described as physical laws, mathematical structures, informational processes, or independent relationships, these patterns provide remarkable order throughout the cosmos. Buddhism's concept of Māyā invites us to recognize that appearances may conceal deeper truths rather than contradict them. Likewise, modern theoretical physics seeks the elegant principles capable of unifying gravity, quantum mechanics, space, time, and matter into a single coherent framework. Both perspectives encourage humility in the face of mystery. Perhaps the universe is not hiding a literal computer program or secret code waiting to be discovered. Perhaps the hidden code is the pattern itself, the underlying order that gives rise to galaxies, atoms, consciousness, and life. Whether approached through meditation or mathematics, humanity continues the same timeless search to understand what reality truly is beneath its endlessly fascinating appearance. Chapter 11, Awakening from the Illusion. If Māyā describes the illusion of mistaking appearances for ultimate reality, then the natural question becomes, how do we awaken from that illusion? Buddhism teaches that awakening does not require escaping the world or rejecting physical existence. Instead, it begins by seeing reality more clearly. Through mindfulness, compassion, and wisdom, we gradually recognize how our assumptions, attachments, and fears shape the world we experience. This awakening is often compared to opening your eyes after a vivid dream. While dreaming, every event feels completely real. Only upon waking do you recognize that your mind created an entire world from thoughts and perceptions. Buddhism suggests that much of our suffering comes from clinging to temporary experiences as though they were permanent. By loosening that attachment, we begin to experience life with greater clarity and freedom. Modern science also demonstrates that progress often begins by questioning accepted assumptions. Humanity once believed Earth was the center of the universe and that time flowed the same for everyone. Each scientific revolution revealed that reality was stranger than previously imagined. Whether through meditation or scientific investigation, awakening begins with the willingness to admit that reality may be far more profound than it first appears. Chapter 12. Living within the hidden code. Suppose reality truly is built upon deeper patterns that unite consciousness, information, and the physical universe. What would that mean for everyday life? It would not necessarily change the way gravity works or how the sun rises each morning, but it could transform the way we relate to ourselves and to others. Every decision, every conversation, and every act of kindness would become part of an interconnected web extending far beyond what we immediately perceive. Buddhism teaches that understanding interdependence naturally leads to compassion. When we recognize that our lives are deeply connected with every other person and every part of nature, selfishness begins to lose its grip. Modern science likewise reveals that we are composed of atoms forged in ancient stars, connected through ecosystems, and dependent upon countless invisible relationships that sustain life. We are not isolated observers standing outside the universe. We are expressions of it. Perhaps the hidden code is not simply written in mathematics or embedded within quantum fields. Perhaps it is also expressed through awareness itself, through every relationship, and through the remarkable order that allows life to emerge from the cosmos. Whether we call it dependent origination, universal information, or the laws of nature, the deeper pattern invites us to live with curiosity, humility, and wonder as we continue exploring the greatest mystery of all, reality itself. Bonus chapter. Beyond Māyā, emptiness, no self, and the ultimate mystery. If Māyā teaches that reality is not quite what it appears to be, Buddhism invites us to take one final step. Beyond the illusion lies the concept of sunyata, or emptiness. Despite its name, emptiness does not mean that nothing exists. Instead, it means that nothing exists independently or possesses a permanent, unchanging essence. Every person, object, and event exists only through an endless web of relationships and conditions. Like a rainbow that appears vividly in the sky yet depends entirely on sunlight, water droplets, and the observer's position, reality is real as an experience while remaining profoundly interdependent. This insight naturally leads to another cornerstone of Buddhist philosophy, anatta, or no self. Just as nothing else possesses a fixed essence, neither do we. The person you call I is not a permanent entity hidden somewhere inside the mind or body, but an ever-changing stream of thoughts, memories, sensations, emotions, and experiences. Modern neuroscience offers an intriguing parallel by suggesting that our sense of self is continuously constructed by the brain rather than existing as a single unchanging center. While science and Buddhism reach these ideas through different methods, Both encourage us to question the assumption that identity is as fixed as it feels. In the end, perhaps the greatest lesson is not that we have solved the mystery of reality, but that we have learned how much remains unknown. Science continues searching for a unified description of the cosmos, while Buddhism encourages direct investigation through mindful awareness and insight. Neither approach has fully answered what reality ultimately is, yet both point toward humility, curiosity, and wonder. If there truly is a hidden code beneath the universe, it may not simply be written in mathematics, matter, or consciousness alone. It may be revealed whenever we look beyond appearances, release our certainty, and remain open to the possibility that reality is far richer, deeper, and more mysterious than we have ever imagined. Conclusion. Across thousands of years, Buddhism has encouraged humanity to look beyond appearances and question the assumptions that shape everyday experience. Today, modern physics, cosmology, neuroscience, and information theory are asking many of the same fundamental questions from an entirely different direction. While these fields use different methods and pursue different goals, both remind us that reality is far more mysterious than our senses alone suggest. It is important to remember that the parallels explored throughout this audiobook are philosophical rather than scientific proof. Buddhism's concept of Māyā is a spiritual teaching about perception and suffering, while theories involving quantum mechanics, information, and computational models belong to scientific inquiry and remain active areas of research. Yet the conversation between these perspectives encourages us to think more deeply about the nature of existence without confusing metaphor with established fact. Whether the universe is ultimately built from matter, information, consciousness, or something we have not yet imagined, one truth remains constant. Every great discovery begins with a question. If Māyā has anything to teach us today, it may be this, that reality is richer than appearances. Wisdom begins with curiosity, and the search for the universe's hidden code is ultimately a search to better understand ourselves, our place in the cosmos, and the extraordinary mystery of existence.